Hey everybody, Shawn Holsinger here from holsingersflyshop.com. Bringing you a fly time video today, and today it's going to be a long one because it's a big fly. It's a big articulated streamer called the Headbanger. Cool pattern. I've caught lots of fish on it. I've caught fish. The crazy thing is I've caught fish the size of the fly. It's really, really weird, but it's my go-to high water pattern. If it's springtime, rain's coming down, water's starting to rise, Keller's starting to come into the water, I throw one of these on and it's almost a guarantee, and it's usually a big fish too. So I love fishing this early spring. I throw it on my Euro rig. I'm not gonna lie to you. I tie it right onto my Euro rig, flip it out there and do some stripping with it and have a lot of fun with it. This is gonna be a long tie, so sit down and get comfy. This is the way I tie it. I know different people tie them in different ways. This is just the way that I tie my Headbanger fly. So hope you enjoy it. Here you're going to see a picture of the fly and then the material list to tie it. Okay, here you see this big meaty fly in the vise. Let's get into tying it here. We're going to start off with a hook. For our trailer hook, we're going to use a Firehole 811. This is a size 6 hook. So we're going to put that in the vise and start tying. For thread, I'm using some dark gray 140 Denier UTC thread. Just start that on there, wrap it back towards the back. Next thing I'm going to do, I took the tips off 2 Marabou feathers here, a green and an orange, and I'm going to take, about 10 strands of Krystal flash, fold it over so I get like 20, and I'm going to sandwich this in between the 2 pieces of Marabou and make it equal to even with the tips. So there you can see it's in between the 2 strips there, and I'm just going to pinch all that together. Get all them feathers, try and keep them around the same length, make a nice tail out of it there, the 2-tone tail. We're going to set it on top and tie it down then. So get a couple good wraps on there. Make sure it's the length you want it. I like that length. Just going to wrap it back to the bend. Then I'm going to come in and I'm going to trim off this Krystal flash first. And set that aside for later. And then I'm going to take and trim this out, cut it a little bit of an angle just to get a nice taper, and taper it towards the eye there. Okay. So, next thing I'm going to put on is a piece of UV polar chenille. This is olive brown. And I'm just going to tie this in. You can use different things. Some people use cactus chenille. I just like to use this polar chenille. Next thing I'm going to put in is a big long schlappen feather. This one's an olive, and I usually like to peel off the fluff at the bottom just so I don't get into it, and it gives me something to hold on to also. But I'm going to tie it in by the tip, so just stroke the tip fibers back, and then we're going to tie it down there back to that tail. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to wrap these two, the polar chenille and the schlappen feather, together. I'm going to wrap them, and with every wrap I'm going to tease all the fibers back, so don't trap any. Try not to trap any, and just wrap it forward. And I started in by the tip, so as I wrap this forward, the schlappen feathers get longer as I go up, so it just creates a nice taper going up, and you get a lot of the Keller with the polar chenille mixing in there, a lot of flash mixed in. Just makes a nice flashy body. I like using this method. So just wrap that up there towards the eye. And then I get about an eye length behind it, and I'm going to tie it off. And then trim that off. And I'm going to set my polar chenille. I cut it long so I could do it in 2 pieces. And I'm just going to set that off to the side, clean up my head a little bit. Okay, now next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some rubber legs on this. And these are olive, perfectly barred olive ones. And I'm just going to start them on the side here. And then I'm going to wrap them around the other side. And I want them to go back to that tail, back in that tail area a little bit, not past it, but into it like that. That's good. Got 2 down each side. And that's just going to give you a little bit more action in this fly that's already loaded with lots of action. And now next thing we're going to do is tie on 2 pieces of Marabou. I got a brown and a black. I put them together. And I'm going to tie them in by the tip. So I'm just going to pull out the tip section there. Tie them down by the eye. And then I'm going to turn that tips back around and tie the tips back down. So it just gives me a little bit extra tie-in point there. Then I'm going to just palmer this around here about 2 or 3 wraps. Because I'm using 2 feathers, it's going to be really, really buggy. You only really need about 2 wraps probably. That's good. And then tie it off right there behind the eye. Okay, trim that off. And then we're just going to clean up our eye here. Okay, and there's the butt section of our fly. Do a little whip finish. And we're good. Now, next thing I need to do, you can put a little bit of glue on this if you want to. Next thing I'm going to do is use Senyo intruder wire. And I'm just going to thread that through the eye. And then I'm going to take 2 little plastic beads. These are the 5mm egg beads or whatever that I use for my steelhead candy and stuff. And I'm just going to thread, let me get it on here real quick. There we go. Just thread 2 of them on there like that. And this is gonna tie onto our front hook and we can do the rest of the fly then. Okay, now for the head of the streamer, we're gonna switch to a Gamakatsu B10S stinger hook. This is a size 1. We're gonna get back in with our gray thread here, get that started on and wrap it back towards the bend of the hook. And then we're gonna come in with our trailer hook that we just finished making with our 2 beads here. And you see the hook here, I want the hooks going the same direction. I don't want one going up and one going down. So I want to sit this behind here and I'm going to tie this down, tie this intruder wire down to the hook on the front here. And I try to keep this wire from twisting up so you don't twist your hook around. There, that seemed to work. And I want just enough room for those beads. You can see how the beads just fit in there right. And that looks good. I like that a lot. That holds that in place. And so we're going to tie this intruder wire up towards the eye, not the whole way up. And then I'm going to double it back and tie it down. That just locks it in place. It ain't going anywhere. You could put some super glue on there if you want, but you don't really have to. Then I'm going to come in with some old pair of scissors here and cut that off deep in my scissors. And then tie that down and clean that up. Okay, now next thing we're going to do, we're going to go back to our Krystal flash that we trimmed off earlier. And I'm going to tie it down on each side again. I'm going to tie one side down on the side. And then we're just going to double it over the other side. And I want it to go about halfway back into that fly there. And then we'll trim it off. And then that will eventually just ride around those eggs and stuff. Just give it some extra flash. Now we're going to come in and we're going to put 2 more pieces of Marabou on here. And this, I'm going brown and olive this time. And I just bend it around here and twist it around just to get it mixed the colors in. I don't get real fussy with it. I just want it hanging back over there and just keep that mottled look going to it. You could twist it around here if you wanted to. You could palmer it on there if you wanted to, but I don't spend that much time on it. It looks just as good this way. So we're just going to trim off those butt sections, tie it down, clean it up. And we're going to go back to our UV polar chenille and schlappen again. This is a big, big meaty fly, and there's lots of time that goes into it. So, sorry for being long-winded, but I'm showing you everything. Tying in my UV polar chenille again, tying in my schlappen again, same as we did on the back. Tie that down, and then we're just going to palmer this forward. Again, tying it in by the tip with that schlappen so it gets bigger as it goes up. Try to tease out those polar chenille fibers as you go. And just keep wrapping. Until we get up there about an eye length, and well, about an eye and a half, maybe even 2 lengths behind there. There we go, that's good, I like that. Trim it off, and then we're going to clean this head up. Alright, now we're going to come back in with rubber legs again. This pair I'm going to do a lot longer. I'm going to pretty much go at the halfway point here. I'm going to tie one in on each side at the halfway point. We'll tie two of them. Actually, there we go. And then fold it around, tie it in on the other side. And then you can trim them the length you want there. Oops. Okay, now we're going to make the fins on this fly. For the fins, I'm using some Chenille laser dub. Real woolly stuff. I like this stuff a lot for these fins. I'm going to pull a big clump out of it here. And you got to experiment a little bit, see how much is too much. When you pull it and you twist it together, you want it about a pencil width, I'd say. And we're going to set that on the side there, right on top of those green rubber legs that we just tied in. We're going to tie it down on one side, get it pretty tight, and then we're going to flip it over to the other side and tie it down. So right now this is the bottom side of the fly. I just took it over the top and tied it down there. So this is actually going to become the bottom side of the fly. We're going to flip it upside down now. These are our shoulders on this fly. It's going to be like the big sculpin wings. Pectoral fins, I should say. And the last thing we're going to do is put on the dorsal on this, which is going to be some craft fur. So I'm going to use some olive craft fur. I'm just going to cut off a big chunk of it. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I got a big chunk of craft fur here. I'm going to grab it by the tips and I'm going to pull out the small stuff at the bottom. I use my brush. Just brush out that little under fur at the bottom. And then I usually pull the tips and get 2 smaller groups there so I can get the tips lined up. And once I get them lined up there, I'm going to set this right on top of the hook so it goes right up over that hook point. You can see the hook point there. I'm going to center that on the hook point, center it right in between those wings of this fly here and tie it down. Give her a couple wraps to tie it into place, and then we're going to trim off the butt sections. And we're going to clean up the head on this. Okay, now that I got that done, I'm going to pre-fit my head on here, my sculpin helmet. And it's a little bit tight, and it doesn't go back quite as far as I want it to go. So what I'm going to do is, it's a little bit tight. That means I have enough thread on there. I don't need to add more. So I'm going to whip finish this off. And then I'm going to take a pair of pliers. Secure that a little better there. I'm going to take a pair of pliers and I'm going to crush this head a little bit. Just to get it a little bit thinner. So my sculpin helmet will go on just a little bit deeper. And there, now I got my sculpin helmet to go way back in past the eye like that. That's how I want that to look there. Okay, so now we're going to glue that on. All right, now that we got it fitted on there, ready to go, we know we like where it's at. We're just going to put a little bit of super glue on the head here. All the way around. And then we're going to slide that sculpin helmet on there. Push it back on good. Get it where you want it. And then I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to create a little thread dam here on the front of this between the eye and the sculpin helmet, just to help lock it in place. And to help give us something else to glue onto here in a second. Whip finish. And then we're going to glue our eyes on. So just going to put a little dab in each little eye socket there. A little dab of super glue. And then the sculpin helmets come with eyeballs to put in them. So we're just going to slide one in each eye there. There we go. Then I like to take my whip finish tool, the butt section of it there. Just give them a little press into place. Make sure they're in there where you want them. You can see there, one in each side. And then I like to take a little bit of bone dry, Solarez bone dry. Cover that up and it just locks it in place. And also get it around and inside the hole here. There, I got a little bit in the eye of my hook. That's fine. Just right before we hit it with the light, we're gonna pop that hole open. So if I do that, usually I just stick my whip finish tool in there and then hit my light, wiggle my whip finish around so it doesn't get, so it stays open. There we go. And that's all that's to this meaty, very, very meaty fly. Okay guys, I hope you liked that fly. I know it was a long tie, but it's well worth it. Once you get this fly tied, you know, it looks great laying on your bench and it looks great in the water too. And like I said earlier, this is such a weird pattern. I've caught fish that are the same size as this fly. I don't know how they even got it in their mouth, but you know, one of the hooks in their mouth, but I have. And I also have caught some really big fish on this fly. So it's great, even this time of year, winter time here while I'm posting this video, you know, swing it then. But I tend to use it more in the spring, like I said, higher water conditions and stuff like that. If you want these flies, if you'd like me to tie them, if you don't have the time or the materials, you know, you can find them on our website at holsingersflyshop.com. If you want me to tie them for you, you can also reach out to me at holsingersflyshop@gmail.com. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for being patient and sticking around this long. And until next week, I'm Shawn Holsinger.